Good evening and bienvenue, my fun, fair friends, family, and subscribers. This is your humble narrator, Diomedes Rouge, here to bring you part 6 of What If Bell Was Trained as a Spartan. Now, today's episode will be playing fast and we'll be playing hard. What do I mean by that? There will be a few time skips in it. Oh yes, I'm going to be speeding up the timeline relatively well, considering if I don't, well, that's an extra 3 episodes for setup that I'd have to do, and to be honest, it would be primarily filler, and I don't feel like doing that to y'all. This is going to be primarily hitting the key points, as well as minor bit of filler. Now, where we last left off, Bell, Landa, Xander, Jace, and Basil, they all got back to Sparta. And amongst getting back to Sparta, they were all told to essentially break apart, go home, and be ready for their reward. Their rewards for their good deed. Now, upon arriving back into his home, Bell's first thought was to pass the hell out. He has had a rough last couple of months, and he would prefer to sleep in his own bed. And so, his mother allowed it. Seeing that same face, the face that his father has made on several other occasions. Xander and Lander, well, they do what they do best. They train. Like, you ain't stopping those crazy idiots. If they aren't immediately fighting, they're training. If they aren't training, they're looking at ways to train. If they aren't looking at ways to train, one of them's flirting and the other one's doing arithmetic. And I'm pretty sure by now you can guess which one's doing which. That's right, it swaps in between. You never know. Well, not arithmetic. The other one would probably be sharpening his blades. But you get the idea. As for Jace, well, being a non-native to Sparta, he, well, he's feeling very awkward. That is, at least until he, is basically told to follow one of the king's attendants and fill out some essentially what you would call, pardon me one moment, sorry, fairly early, had to yawn, to fill out some forms for becoming a true citizen. Yes, even back then there was paperwork. By the gods, the evils of paperwork, do they never cease? Enough about that. After, well, a few hours of rest, recuperation, Bell was informed by his mother to awaken and to meet back with his father at, well, the city hall. Upon arriving there, him, Landa, Xander, and Basil have all rejoined, and Jace is already still there because he never really left due to the sheer amount of paperwork. Oh, my hand is so tired. At least you only have to fill it out once. Shut up. As they continue on into Leonidas's main office. Now, I'm pretty sure all of you are wondering why the hell I brought you here. Yes, my liege. All of them state. Simple. It has come to my attention that every one of you has done up to and beyond your normal call of duty. So, due to this, I'm going to reward you all. Yes, sir. As well, they get ready to hear how. Normally, this would not be the case. Normally, this would be held off at least until you had sons of your own. However, times are getting rougher. So, Bell, yes, you're to be given command of a company. A company? Indeed. You'll be attached to, well, you'll be attached to a battalion of my choosing. Afterwards, you're to fall in line with them. Understood? Sir, yes, sir. Good. As for the rest of you, yes, sir. They all say in unison. You are all to join Bell's command. If any of you fail, you'll be replaced. Sir, Lander says, intruding. What is it, boy? The only reason any of us would ever fail is because we would be dead, sir. I see the lashes never got rid of your spirit. Good. Of course, sir. Pardon me one moment. And so, time progresses yet again. This time for about a month. During that time, well, the Pale Horse Company has done quite a lot of deeds. And one of the first of them being, upon being first introduced as leader of men, sometimes twice their age, well, naturally the men would not want to follow, due to their leader being young and obviously lacking in experience. So Bell offered them all a challenge. What was that challenge? Simple. If you can beat me, you can take my spot. Every single man in that company challenged him, and every single man got their arse beaten. Quickly and efficiently. At this point, some of them questioned if he was truly human or whether he was half god, questioning Leonidas's legacy. To be able to face down that many Spartan men back to back to back, without appearing to lose a single step or a single foothold. It was quite a shock. But yet he did so with ease. Of course, that didn't stop Landa and Xander and Basil from trying their hands at taking command as well. They are Spartan men after all, And while they did take longer to beat than some, they were still beaten back into their place. Jace was the only one that didn't try. And why would you, may ask? Simple, Jace didn't give a damn. Jace valued Bell as a friend. He didn't care about leading anything. All he cared about was as long as he was fed, paid, and able to have a roof over his head whenever he came home. And so, that's how it was. Until, well, there was a certain stir in the wind that meant the call of war began yet again. Except this time, it was to be with fellow Greeks. And who, may you ask, be starting shit? Well, I'll give you a hint. Upon Bel leaving his land, he gave him quite the long string of insults and slanders. Granted, they were well deserved. Don't take me out of context. And that old bastard deserved every one of them, especially for what he said to Bel. But as a king, there are certain respects that need to be paid. And Bel did not pay them in mind. No. And he took that as a slight from all of Sparta. Now, you may be wondering, well, wouldn't the rest of Greece interfere? Not especially. Not if you know what you're doing. You see, when Greece comes down to it, as long as each land is able to pay its tithes, to pay the taxes, and come to aid whenever necessary, it's more than fine to have occasional spats with each other. Countries will gain some land, lose some land, but as long as everything is paid, they're fine with it. They're fine with a bit of spilt blood even amongst kinsmen. But again, as long as the tithes are paid. Yes. Bureaucracy at its best, no? However, it's whenever things like that would get interrupted, shipment lanes becoming barricaded, for example, that's whenever Greece would have problems. And so, it was a fine dance between bureaucracy and invasion that King Minos had to dance around in order to get what he fully felt as his justified revenge for not only his weapon that was lost, his way of enforcement, but also for the humiliation that was brought upon him. And he had a brand new trick up his sleeve. Something that would give him the edge in almost any combat situation. A certain trump card that he was more than willing to call upon in the first engagement with the Spartan menace. Oh yes, this was going to be quite the treat. Now you may ask yourselves, what is going to happen during this little war? And I will tell you this, a bit of bloodshed. let us begin with the first attack. That did not involve Bell, of course. According to the reports that the Spartans got, the flags came during one of the fort strongholds that was connected to the sea. Was essentially being, well, hailed for the standard, well, trade goods and such to come in. As they were hailed, the, well, upon arrival, true, a few amount of supplies were traded in, but more and more soldiers began to emerge on the tops of the ships. Naturally, this would make any Spartan nervous, but as far as they knew, they were all allies. Even if these men were weaker and less, well, manly than the Spartans themselves by some of their standards. Especially after hearing the exploits of what a lone teenager did to the supposed Minotaur. Oh yes. But Minos, he had different plans, and so did his general on board that ship. For under the guise of a trading vessel, that's where the first plan was struck. And that's where the first attack swept through. In the course of a single night, the entire bowels of the ship were emptied. Over 200 soldiers came spilling forth from the ships themselves, swarming, attacking, and slaughtering the defenders. One survivor from the network, from the fort itself, would describe the weapons as shining and gleaming. And no matter what defense was put up against them, they would carve through. Never the Spartan shield would try to be raised against one of their blades. It would be cracked asunder, or sliced in twine like a fine thread. Whenever a Spartan spear would meet their armor, it would crack and bend or snap, and would not find its mark to be true. It was as if they had some sort of protection, something they have never seen before. With every strike, with every blow, they could not get even a single casualty. At least not without costing them dozens of their own men. For they were not prepared for this type of combat, for this type of slaughter. As one of their fortresses were overtaken within a night, and taken over by the king of Minos. Now, this was all-out war. For not only did they capture one of their fortresses, but that fortress was also a fortress city. It had civilians. It had men, women, children inside. Granted, most of the men appeared to have been slaughtered by the attack. But the women and children were still quite valuable, and now held hostage. It was a dire situation indeed. They had to act. Do they march forward to retake it, knowing what the scout said, what the survivor told them? Or do they hold back and try and negotiate for the release of the hostages? King Leonidas was put in an awkward spot indeed. And that's whenever Bel appeared before him in the war chambers. This is no place for a minor commander, boy. Leave, one of the generals states. You're only a commander of a company. What the hell do you think you're doing here? As Bel quickly takes a knee. Forgive my intrusion. However, while I am a commander of only a minor company of 100 men, I will be glad to take that company and charge and lead a spearhead straight to the heart of the enemy itself. What do you mean, boy? Leonidas perks up his eyebrow. Simple, sir. We lead a 2-stage attack. You and a defensive formation. Meanwhile, a small force would be easily able to evade and outmaneuver the large shipping vessels coming forward. I've seen the King of Minos. I've seen his prowess, or lack thereof, and I've seen his lack of ingenuity. He would never expect us to attack his homeland, and he would certainly never expect us to strike him where he's weakest. He would expect us to keep playing this game of cat and mouse, to try and capture and hold forts against each other. For he believes that we will take this affront without provocation. To him, this is personal, a matter of him feeling slighted because of me. So naturally, it should be me that fixes this situation. Oh. And what if you fail? Then you only lose 100 men, sire. And the attempt on, as well as gain a foothold somewhere else. And what do you mean by that? When you reinforce and restructure a defensive line that will guard against his networks over here and here, as you are currently planning on both sides of the fortress city, there will also be a minor opportunity every third week of the month to be able to sneak a small amount of forces into the bay. And how do you know about this? My hobby, sir. Your hobby? I go over reports. Oh? As you well know, my father is the king. However, I do not use that said special treatment lightly. And I usually push myself forward beyond it. However, on occasion I do abuse my right and go through the records. Alright, boy, what have you found out? Simple. Every third week of the month, there is maintenance done upon each of the gates leading out to the harbor. Even if they are not fully aware of it, they've been holding it for a while, and they realize that this must be continued or will cause disrepair. And any disrepair that falls upon them, well, will only be an advantage to be taken up that will be taken up later. If they have not done so, you now know a new entryway in. And if they are doing so, then you still have an entryway in for a small amount of forces. Oh? But if their weapons are able to sunder our shields and block our spears, how do you expect us to be able to fight them, boy? By not fighting them at all. We make them worry. We scare them. We scare them the way Spartans have always scared these pitiful excuses for men. They think that just because they have new arms and armor, that they are stronger. No. They lack the spirit to be able to properly use them. And we will show them the true warrior spirit. All right, you have my interest. How do we do so? Simple. I suggest we use some of the older men. So the ones who can guise themselves as lame, or how should I put this? Unuseful. No longer capable of combat. And we ask them to take a minor hit to their pride and sneak into the fortress city under the guise of darkness during that third week of the month. It should take me at least, my company at least, 2 to 3 months to be able to head over to. Should be able to, well, if everything goes according to plan, and avoiding all possible normal ways of attack. It would take me and my company between 2 to 3 months to be able to travel straight to the city, to the heart where Minos lies. Meanwhile, during that time, it will give you 2 to 3 opportunities to set up your men. Personally, I would take it on the second try. And what are you suggesting? Greek fire. Greek fire. The first group of men come in, fully set up and ready to work. They act geriatric, lame, useless in combat. They'll be asked to take a hit to their pride, and for that, I suggest we compensate them well. But in turn, they will be scouting the area, seeing the new formations the enemy has set up, fully examining the arms and armor, taking what they can without drawing attention to themselves. Looking over the layout. Some of the men will have to hide in places they will never want to hide. Be it the sewers, alleyways, whatever. Even the basements. They're asking a lot. They've done a lot. They killed our men. We will have our vengeance. And if we cause a stir here, they'll be too distracted to sin. They'll be too distracted. Very well. Continue. After the first month, going on to the second, a shipment of the next group of men will come in, except you will be replacing half of them with shipments of Greek fire. Bottles and bottles of Greek fire. I see. That will put our alchemists to work, indeed. And upon that night, when all the forces of those men meet up, we launch an arrow of flame straight into the sky. And that will be their signal to loose them. Whatever arms and armor they have gathered there, they will utilize in self-defense. But their main point is to cause panic. To attack the gates from the inside, burning down the wooden palisades and barricades, as well as the doors. But wouldn't that cause us more harm than good? Yes, in the long run. But we also have to factor in that our strategy would hold against us. Remember, while those men may be, may be arrogant, pompous, asinine, they are Greeks. And they will take advantage of a stronghold. And they will hold it down with their lives. Especially one that was first fortified by Spartans. I see. He has a point. The only way we can make an advantage, take advantage of the situation, is if we're willing to slight ourselves. Is if we're willing to slit our finger in order to draw out their lifeblood. As if we're willing to cut our hand on our own blade, to stab the dagger deep in their heart and twist it. You sound like you're taking this personally, Belle. I am. It is because of me that we are in this situation. It is because of me and my antics that have caused all of this pain and suffering. And I will make sure to pay it back to that king in kind. I will do what I should have done all those months ago and slaughter that asinine pig. If he truly expects me to hold back just because of some courtesy, he has another thing coming. Say your plan does work. How will your plan of invading possibly go into effect? You're taking you and your 100 men, and you're crossing over an entire ocean to get to him. Crossing the sea to attack an enemy with a small force in their own territory, well, more than likely they will have bolstered defenses. How will you be able to do anything? Simple. They won't bolster their defenses. Not against a small craft. And will come along the guise of being a diplomatic mission. Diplomatic. Yes, Father. Remember, I'm the one that caused this. It would bring him no more glee, no possible amount of happiness or untold bliss to realize that I have come to him in person to apologize for my actions and to beg for him to take his forces out of our territory. And when I see my opportunity, when I see my chance, I'll strike him and everyone around him down like the dogs they are. You are becoming quite ruthless, Belle. What can I say? When someone slights me, I do not like it. So why not raise the flag of diplomacy and go through the proper channels? It would be too easy a target for their generals. Remember, these aren't Spartans or Athenians. They're the hordes of Minos, the pompous, arrogant prick. More than likely, they'd try and sink a small vessel to curry favor. Granted, we'll need the shipments of wine, as well as a sack of gold from the treasury, to properly sell the bit upon landing. Hmm. And what of you, Belle? What will you need? Me. I will need my company. I will need my sword. I will need my spear. And I will need my shield. And most importantly, I will need the faith of every Spartan in this room. No. I would beseech the faith of every Spartan in this room and every Spartan outside of it. For what I am doing is going to be one hell of a gamble. Very well. As a couple of the other generals stand up, you'll have it. Aye. Indeed. You know, your father made a similar plan involving him going straight towards it. Really. He quickly dismissed it, though, as foolhardy. But it appears the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Why don't you show them what you're capable of, pale horse? Will do. As he goes to his company, horses! Front and center! As all of them come clamoring forth. Every one of you, I'm proud to call my men. Every one of you, I'm proud to have by my side. Every one of you, I'm proud to call my brother. And today you're going to prove, well, just how far you're gonna be willing to go for your crazy ass commander. As they all go, oh, 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 in unison. Now you listen to me. I've signed us up for one hell of a suicide run. As all the men begin to get that standard laugh and chuckle, going, oh, another one! Ah, just like the commander, always wanting to toss us into the deepest, darkest pit of Hades, just to pull us back out by the skins of our teeth. So, where will we be going this time? Straight to Britannia to go after their king, or one of their high marshals? No. We'll be heading straight into the depths of Minos to take out, well, Minos. As there's a moment of silence before Lander and Xander just begin to go laugh. All right. As they begin to crack their knuckles. Oh, finally! I've been waiting to go back and beat the shit out of that pompous ass. Why didn't you tell us sooner, Belle? I wanted it to be a surprise. All right, man. Gather together. Tonight, we drink. Tonight, we feast. Tonight, we raise hell and then march into the gates of it. As they all cheer and cheer and laugh, as they begin to sharpen their blades, fortify their armor, and chat amongst themselves. Mainly about how crazy their commander is charging into the literal jaws of death. And then they realize they wouldn't have it any other way. Over this 1 month time, Bell has taken his company and done some less than standard tactics with it. The usual formation upon the Spartan military is a phalanx, interlocking shields, that will repel any enemy assault, and then from right to left, sweep over and eliminate the enemy lines. But he has been known to break formation quite often, sending out forward scouts of men, forward squads, to lull the enemy into false confidence and then strike them from the side. He has been known to purposefully take his personal squad in the middle of the night and sneak into enemy encampments, slaughter a few, and then run out before anyone is the wiser in the midst of all the confusion, causing the enemy to lose sleep and morale. Yes, Bell is not your typical Spartan indeed.
Pardon me?
No, he was not your standard Spartan indeed. However, he took pride in this fact. For while every one of his Spartan brothers in arms could do their job and do it well, he was more than happy to take on the burden of doing things that were out of the ordinary. Not saying that other times tactics such as these weren't adopted, but they were not the forefront of Spartan thinking. Of course, it was a miracle he wasn't marshaled or had disciplinary action taken against him. Partially was because he was a prince, and fear of striking him and incurring Leonidas' wrath was paramount. And second, he got results. So even if you did punish him, the results spoke for themselves. So you couldn't really fight against that. But his men knew that if shit hit the fan, that he would be there at their side. That he would fight and die with every one of them, from the lowliest of grunt to the highest of officer in his group, in his company. They learned that many, many times over. So they drank, and they partied, and they feasted. For they knew they were marching into the jaws of death in the morrow. And so, upon the morrow rising, Leonidas set forth his plan, or rather his son's plan, in motion. The boat was set. A boat large enough to contain the 100 men of Bell's company, while small enough to be as fleet as possible. And when I say fleet, I mean as fast as possible. My apologies. To be as fast as possible. It was not heavily armored, nor was it heavily reinforced. Hell, you could say it was barely armed. But it did look pretty. So, worst comes to worst, and they were attacked by pirates. They may assume it was a royal ship and pull them over to try and rob them. Oh, how foolish they would be. But it is a possibility nonetheless. And so the months began, and yes, time skip. The voyage began. On Leonidas' side. It is as Bell predicted. They kept maintaining the docks as well as the port, as well as the walls that would open in and out for ships to come forward and through. And just as he said, a small group of men could slip inside during that period of time. However, what he didn't know is that no Spartan goes anywhere unarmed. Every older man would take with him a dagger, take with him a sword. Well, a dagger and a sword. The Zephyr, a small straight-bladed weapon, less than half a foot long, in a leaf-shaped design, designed to, whenever it pierces through the enemy armor, through the weak points, it would cause them to bleed the maximum amount possible before being ripped out. And on a stealth mission, very easy to conceal. People may ask, why did Spartans carry such a short blade? To that, Spartans would simply respond, so we can see the light go out of your eyes whenever we finally kill you. Or, it's big enough to get to your heart. Or, because we prefer getting up close. But in reality, it was to work along with the shield. It was to work along with the formation. A big, cumbersome, larger blade makes it harder to keep yourself in formation whenever you need to strike. But a smaller, easier to maneuver blade, you can thrust, pull back, hack and slash as needed. The old men entered in, and they were more than willing to do this. Not only for their Spartan pride, but also, if they died doing this, they would earn their tombstones. And you may ask, what do you mean? And I will make a small side note here, and this is actually true, by the way. There was only ever 2 ways to earn a tombstone in Sparta, and yes, earn one. If you were a male, you either fought and died in battle. And if you were a female, you died giving birth to a child. Only 2 ways to earn a tombstone in Sparta. Only 2 ways. Other than that, you got buried and were forgotten about by history. Quite literally, that's how it was. So there's a reason why they had a group of men that were willing to charge into battle no matter what. You could say it was quite fanatical of them. They wanted to earn that damn tombstone, damn it. So yes, if you're wondering why an older generation would hop back into the fight, there you go. It was to earn that sweet, sweet tombstone. Spartans. Gotta love them. And so, the plan carried on as normal. Somewhat. The Spartans, they would make people go missing. Small guards, and as well as a few key personnel. The armorer, for instance, or rather I should say, the man in charge of the armory was their key target. They didn't take risks, however. And yes, they did act the old fool. For, well, the rest of Greece, they did not treat their old kindly. And so, whenever it came to them, they were easily bypassed, not just looked over, as the older men would look and behave like they were in squalor, but in actuality, spying upon them, setting themselves up in key locations throughout the city to watch and wait. For just because they are 60 and above, they are still Spartans. And an old Spartan is the most dangerous kind, for he is not afraid to die, and he's more than willing to take you with him. And this fact was proven many times over, as guards would disappear, not many at a time, but enough to keep the garrison low. Enough to make an inquiry. But that is before new shipments would arrive. Fresh men would be let off, and people would be forgotten amongst the confusion and paperwork. Logistics truly is a nightmare when you got a bunch of murderers inside your own city. And as the second month rolled around, you can bet your sweet arse they brought in more supplies, as well as a crate full of 75 bottles of Greek fire. At this point, the old men inside, the older Spartans, gathered up enough gear to outfit half of them in this armor and weaponry. They hated the idea of wearing enemy outlines, so they made it their mission, whenever they would kill an enemy, to use his blood to mark their armor, to mark the new armor in the standard Spartan symbol of war. Oh yes, they were more than happy. As they prepared for the signal each and every night, waiting and watching the sky. And now we'll cut back to Bell and his group of men, as he was doing something less exciting. Sailing. Yes. There have been no troubles due to his quick-natured mindset and thinking, for he sailed around most problems and problem areas. He did not want to get bogged down in simple warfare or simple siege combat with ships, nor deal with piracy, for that would take time and waste it. And he feared the more time he wasted, the more men under his command would die, the more needless life and blood would be shed. And Bell, he does not like that at all. And so, he made his way into the enemy's borders, their shipping lanes, and he concealed himself off a small island just outside of their lane's main way of transport. And he waited until nightfall, and then he brought his ship closer to shore. At this, his company balked, wondering, "Sir, weren't we supposed to, you know, go in formally?" "That was the plan, but I don't like that." "What do you mean, sir?" "Think about it. This has all been too simple. Not to mention, I won't bow or kowtow to that traitorous bastard." "But sir, men's lives are going to be on the line. I know that. But even for the briefest of moments, I want this bastard to know that he has angered the wrong man. And so, I'll be going there alone." "Alone?" "That's right. My men, I love and trust all of you. You are my brothers. But I will march into that city alone, as Belle of Sparta. And you all will wait for my signal, for I will cause as much havoc and as much mayhem as I can. And when I do, it will be your time to strike." "Strike? Oh, yes. You will attack the docks, ship coming in as fast as possible. In the meantime, I will set things in motion that they will never see coming. Hand me that cask, the one marked with my family's symbol." As he reaches, as one of the men bring it forward, and Bell puts the shield on his back for just a brief moment, two-handing the keg and hoisting it above his shoulder. As he redons his shield, "When I give the signal, all of you are to charge." "What will be the signal?" "You'll know it when you see it and hear it." As he walks off. Oh yes, things are heating up mighty, mighty well. Nah, I won't end it here. I've done that enough to you guys. We'll keep going. With that, Bell gets ready for what could be the dumbest idea of his life. As he waits for his men to get back upon the ship, as most of the younger ones, or should I say, newer recruits, are put off by this act. The rest of the men are damn well used to it at this point. The rest of the men are going like, "Ah, crap, what the hell's he doing this time? I don't know. You think he's gonna try and fight a bear by himself again?" Oh, who knows, maybe. As Lander and Xander both take a knee and start praying to Ares, their chosen patron, for protection and guidance in this matter. As Jace takes a knee and prays to Zeus and Hera to watch over him, and some of the other men take a knee and pray to their chosen deities to keep a watchful eye over their commander. for truly he is going to do something stupid. And boy, are they right. As Bell approaches the gate, Archer's taking pot shots at him upon realizing there's a Spartan walking into their city by himself with a cask. They start raising the alarms. Everyone begins to throw a panic, thinking that an invasion is underway. All the guards start swarming, gathering around as this one Spartan in royal colors walks forward with a cask on his shoulder, stating, "What? All this for me? I'm happy, but I don't deserve such fanfare." As he continues just swaggering about, as an arrow is let loose upon his general direction, and he turns and easily intercepts it with his shield, before spinning back around and continuing on his way. Hold in the name of the King Midas. In the name of King Minos. My apologies. Midas is a different character that will come up, not in this series, but in another one. Hold in the name of King Minos. You're under arrest. Oh? You and what army? The one in front of you. You call this an army? No. All I see is a bunch of skirts. A bunch of women acting as if they are men. And they start getting angry. What did you say? Oh, you heard me. None of you can hold a candle to my prowess. Now, I am not here to deal with the plebeians such as yourself. I am here to deal with your king. I even brought a gift. Do you really think we'd fall for that, Spartan ass? Oh, there's nothing to fall for. Granted, if you truly don't trust me, I'd be more than happy to settle this in a contest of arms. As he sets down the full cask, as they hear the loud thud of it dropping on the ground a few inches from the position he last held it. I did not describe that properly. He bends down with it on his shoulder to where it's only a few inches off the ground, then releases it. It makes a loud thunk as Bell draws his khopesh. So, any of you wish to face me? And the guards begin to step closer with their spears. The archers begin to tighten their bowstrings. Says, oh, apparently I'm deserving of much more credit than I realized. Well then, everybody, first drinks on me! As he takes his khopesh and slams it into the barrel as hard as he can, causing it to sunder and split, spilling the contents onto the ground. The foul-smelling liquid spreading everywhere, coating the feet of every man close by, as they all begin to smell this and go, what is this? This isn't mead. This isn't wine. Good sense of smell you have. No. And Sparta will drink fire. As he sunders it, as he swings his Kopesh along the ground, as, well, lightly this go round, as it impacts upon, well, the granite, or rather I should say the rock roads, causing sparks to fly, as that barrel was not filled with wine, nor any sort of alcohol. No, that barrel was full of Greek fire. An entire barrel full, made for launching from a catapult. Bell lights at close range, causing it to scatter forward. And if you're wondering what Greek fire is, think of it as medieval napalm. Oh yes. Everyone reacts. All the men's feet that were there, all the gods' men's feet are on fire, burning them alive as they scream and shout in agony. The archers are astounded. Most of them lose sight of Bel as they are panicking, hearing the men scream. The civilians all begin to shout and clamor, wondering what's going on. As Bel, he makes his way up the guard tower. He took this opportunity to run as hard and as fast as he could. And he is slaughtering every archer, every god that gets in his way, slamming his shield into their heads, slicing their throats, stabbing their armor. For he knows that for arms and armor to be made of that nature, of that power that they heard about on the front lines, there's only two things you do with that armor. There's two weaknesses to it. One, it's expensive, and two, it takes time and effort to make. The only reason you would equip that to a forward force is either A, you had more than enough time to equip your entire infantry line with it, or your entire army with it, or B, you equipped it to your vanguard to make sure that they would be able to withstand anything that the enemy threw at them. And his guess was right. These men were still wearing the same standard standard arms and armor that other Greeks used, as he cut them down with virtually no effort. Off the shore, however, the men of Bel's party saw the smoke rise, saw the fires lit, and heard the screams of the men caught within it, and the panic. And that's when Xander and Lander both say, I guess that's the signal, and charge forward at full speed to assist their commander, as Bel makes his way to the docks to join his men that would be coming. But he does not take the obvious route. No, he hides within the shadows. He waits for groups of enemies to pass by, taking advantage of anything he can. Oh, and boy does he do. Especially when he gets to the warehouse, causing ruckus, drawing enemies inside as he uses it like a giant maze, causing boxes to fall over on large groups of enemy infantry, using the distraction of said assault to come in and painstakingly, well, I should say, in blinding speed and agility, slit and slash the throats of any unaware archers and or other gods that would dare underestimate him. As he lights the torches for where his ship is to dock, as he does, the ship in close succession comes in, and the 100 Spartans fall out, almost too eagerly to drench their blades in blood. Now Bell, his feet are slightly burnt. His royal gold leaf his royal cloak, that scarlet cloak adorned with gold leafing, is scorched and is holed with many arrows that his armor had to absorb the impact of. But he is happy as he charges forward, leading his men through the front lines. Oh, they did not expect an invasion. They did not expect a takeover. For every god that raised their head and raised their spear to try and stop this invading meat grinder, they were easily slaughtered, split in twain and crushed underfoot. They marched through the streets, shields and spears raised, as Bell was given his specialized spear, one that he had crafted for himself, a lighter weight but strong tipped, to where, while the shaft of the spear may be weaker than other Spartans, he would not use it in the same fashion. For that spear, its primary purpose was for range. For when he saw the enemy line closing in, he would tell his pielermen to loose their javelins while he loosed his spear, slaughtering any reinforcements that would come, disrupting their line, and, most importantly, their shield wall formation. Because a javelin's job is not to kill. It's a secondary effect, and it's a good one. But it's meant to sunder shields, to cause them to crack, to cause them to weigh more, to be awkward to move and guard with, to embed themselves deep inside and possibly break the bones holding the shields upright, forcing them to make the decision: drop the added protection and run, or try to fight or pull out the javelin. Most of them decide to run at the invading horde. Upon reaching the royal palace, they see the gods armed in this armor, these weapons, and Bell steps forward. He is beyond pissed that just because of an insult that this man rightfully deserved, he slaughtered his kinsmen. And so, he does something unimaginable. He gives in to his rage, similar to the time he gave in to his rage and anger against the Lich. His eyes begin to light a blue flame, as if small orbs of fire are released inside. His blade begins to coat itself in a dark aura, extending its reach even further. and his body begins to emit a faint glow as he marches forward. The guards, royal attendants, they are at first put off by this, but then remember they have arms and armor gifted to them by their king. Nothing can stand against them as they charge and attempt to stab into him. What would normally sunder a bronze shield or a steel shield is easily blocked and deflected as Bell raises his blade and carves through them like they were made of butter. Over and over, each attendant, each royal guard comes forward to try and stop him, but he is a juggernaut of destruction. He is no longer Bell of Sparta. He is death. He is death on the battlefield to any of those who would dare cross his path, as he splits their armor, sunders their weapons, and destroys their morale. One man marches forward as 100 men clean up what's left. Upon reaching the main chamber, he screams, "Minos! Come and face me! Die like the coward you are, or be a man for once in your life!" As Minos scurries forward, obviously shaken by what he sees before him, a Spartan wielding magic. Impossible. Unless, is the rumor true? Is the pale Spartan truly blessed by Zeus? You were slighted by me, and instead of confronting me, instead of challenging me, you slaughtered my kin. You invaded my home. I will make you die 1,000 deaths before you're through this night. I will make you pay over and over again for each and every Spartan you killed. You will know true anguish before I am through. As he readies his weapon, as Minos says, "Enough! I surrender. I'll call off my men from the fort, and I will call off any further invasion, and I will give recompense for the amount I have taken. You and your men have won this battle. As Bell gets closer to him, swear on your life, swear on your family, swear on your sons and daughters that you surrender to me, that you admit that you are weaker, that you are a worm." That's a bit far. "I said, do it." He said, "Yes, very well. I swear upon my city, upon my country, upon my mother, my father, my daughters, and my sons' heads, that you will no longer have any quarrel with me, that nor will Sparta. I will give recompense and swear fealty to them in times of war." as Bell, holster as Bell, drops his shield and grabs the man by the neck. We had a deal. I want you to remember. As he takes his sword, filled and covered with dark energy, and begins to carve a long diagonal line across the man's chest, burning and cindering and cauterizing the flesh as it passes by. Bear with the pain, for this is nothing compared to the pain you inflicted upon my civilians, the wives of our men who now are without husband, the sons and daughters who are left without a father. All of that pain and hatred will mark you until the day you die. As he gets right into his face, I will make sure of it. As when he is finished, an upside down chevron has been carved into this man's body. In case you're wondering, the upside down chevron is a standard Spartan trope, or not trope, it's a standard Spartan symbol of, well, on their arms and armor. As you have seen with the standard shield, how it will have the incomplete triangle leading up. Essentially, that is what Bell has done to this man. As he drops him upon the ground, and then sheaths his blade, picks up his shield, and tells his men that we are done here. And remember to hold your bargain. If not, we will come back, and we will slaughter everyone. Man, woman, and child. For if a man like you cannot be trusted with the lives of his soldiers, then nor can they be trusted to be able to lead men and women properly. Meanwhile, back at the fort, the invasion has begun. Greek fire has been set upon the wooden palisades and doors on both sides. Right after the arrow has been launched, everyone's in panic and turmoil. All the civilians of Sparta have armed themselves, ready for war, men and any child of age willing to fight. Hearing the exploits of the young Spartan himself, Bell, and more than willing to put in the effort of holding the line with their older brethren in battle. As they will charge forward, stabbing and sundering into each other, stabbing and slashing. My apologies. I like the word sunder, but it did not fit in this situation. Stabbing and slashing into the enemy lines over and over, due to them being caught off guard, and most of the men taking off their armor for the night. It was an easy cleanup, especially with some of the current older Spartans wearing armor of the same make and market. Oh, it was beautiful. It was truly a massacre to behold. as well. 200 Spartans were slaughtered upon day one of the invasion. Over 450 of the enemy were taken from the world that day. You could say that on both sides, the war has truly been ended. And that's where I'll end off. Because, oh boy, there's a little bit more to be had. Remember, Bell hasn't left the coast of Minos yet. Or rather, I should say Minos' land yet. And oh boy, things are about to really get interesting. Bye for now.